The Taliban, meaning students in Pashto, emerged in the early 1990s during Afghanistan's turmoil. They promised order and strict Islamic law. By 1996, they controlled most of Afghanistan. Their rule was harsh, limiting women's rights and sheltering extremists like Al-Qaeda. Pakistan and the Taliban have a complicated and often unpredictable relationship. Back in the 1990s, Pakistan was one of only 3 countries that officially recognized the Taliban government. This recognition was influenced by Pakistan's strategic interests in Afghanistan. Pakistan saw the Taliban as a way to prevent Indian influence in Afghanistan and as a means to secure its own western border. However, Pakistan's support for the Taliban had unintended consequences. The Taliban's success in Afghanistan encouraged the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, a Pakistani militant group aligned with the Afghan Taliban. The TTP launched a violent campaign against the Pakistani government, carrying out numerous terrorist attacks within Pakistan. Despite these challenges, Pakistan maintained ties with the Taliban. Even after the US invasion in 2001, Pakistan provided refuge to Taliban leaders and fighters who escaped across the border. This support was driven by Pakistan's desire to maintain influence in Afghanistan and counter Indian interests. The Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, often called the Pakistani Taliban, has been a major point of friction between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban. Formed in 2007, the TTP's goal is to overthrow the Pakistani government and establish an Islamic State in Pakistan. The TTP has carried out many deadly attacks inside Pakistan, targeting civilians, security forces, and government facilities. Schools, mosques, and markets have all been hit by the group's indiscriminate violence. The TTP's brutality has earned it widespread condemnation, and it is designated as a terrorist organization by Pakistan, the United States, and the United Nations. Pakistan has accused the Afghan Taliban of providing safe haven and support to the TTP. The TTP's ability to operate freely in areas of Afghanistan controlled by the Taliban has been a major obstacle in relations between the two countries. Tensions between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban escalated sharply in late December 2024. Following a series of deadly TTP attacks inside Pakistan, the Pakistani military conducted airstrikes against suspected TTP hideouts in Afghanistan's Paktika province. The airstrikes, which Pakistan claimed were targeting terrorists, resulted in significant civilian casualties. According to reports, at least 46 people were killed, many of them women and children. The strikes drew international condemnation and sparked outrage in Afghanistan. The Afghan Taliban condemned the airstrikes as a clear violation of Afghan sovereignty and promised to retaliate. The incident marked a significant escalation in tensions between the two countries. Following the Pakistani airstrikes, the Taliban responded with a display of military power. Afghan forces launched artillery strikes on Pakistani border checkpoints, claiming to have inflicted heavy casualties. The Taliban also moved troops and military equipment to the border region, indicating their preparedness for a larger conflict. Taliban leaders issued strong warnings to Pakistan, vowing to defend Afghan territory and strike back against any further aggression. They accused Pakistan of using the TTP as an excuse to violate Afghan sovereignty and destabilize the country. The Taliban's assertive response to the Pakistani airstrikes demonstrated their willingness to defend their territory and interests, even if it meant risking a wider conflict with Pakistan. The heightened tensions with the Afghan Taliban present Pakistan with a difficult challenge. Pakistan is grappling with a resurgent TTP, which poses a significant threat to its internal security. The Pakistani government accuses the Afghan Taliban of sheltering and supporting the TTP, and has demanded that the Taliban take action against the group. However, Pakistan also recognizes the importance of maintaining a working relationship with the Afghan Taliban. Pakistan has been a key player in efforts to engage with the Taliban and help their government gain international recognition. Pakistan sees dialogue and diplomacy as the only practical way to address the TTP issue and ensure stability in Afghanistan. Pakistan is now faced with the difficult task of balancing its security concerns with its diplomatic interests. The Pakistani government must find a way to pressure the Taliban into cracking down on the TTP without further escalating tensions and jeopardizing the fragile relationship between the two countries. The international community has reacted with concern to the escalating tensions between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban. The United Nations has called for restraint and dialogue, urging both sides to avoid actions that could further escalate the situation. Russia, a key player in the region, has also expressed concern and urged both sides to seek a peaceful resolution. Russia has been working to facilitate dialogue between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban and has offered to mediate between the two countries. However, the international community remains divided on how to engage with the Taliban. Some countries, particularly in the West, have been reluctant to recognize the Taliban government due to concerns over human rights and terrorism. This reluctance has complicated efforts to address the crisis and find a lasting solution. The situation on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border remains tense and unpredictable. The risk of further clashes and escalation remains high, particularly if the TTP issue is not addressed. Pakistan has threatened further military action if the Taliban does not take concrete steps to rein in the TTP. The Afghan Taliban, on the other hand, has vowed to respond forcefully to any violation of Afghan territory. The international community is watching the situation closely, fearful of a wider conflict that could further destabilize the region. The stakes are high, and the consequences of a full-blown conflict between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban would be devastating for both countries and the region as a whole. The escalating tensions between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban represent a significant crisis in South Asia. The conflict is rooted in a complex web of historical grievances, strategic interests, and the unresolved issue of the TTP. The situation is further complicated by the Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan, which has emboldened the TTP and raised concerns in Pakistan about cross-border terrorism. The international community is divided on how to engage with the Taliban, limiting the options for a diplomatic solution. The road ahead is fraught with uncertainty. The risk of further escalation and a wider conflict is real and present. The international community must work together to urge restraint, facilitate dialogue, and find a peaceful resolution to this dangerous crisis. Failure to do so could have catastrophic consequences for the region and beyond.